Hello, and welcome to Inside the Arena Cast Conversations with me, Philip Gabriel. This is the show where we get to discuss the current show at RCP, and we get to meet some of the incredible talent behind the production. And this production that we're discussing is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, and I am joined by director Eric Modyman.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
I am thrilled to have you here, and this is your first time here.
First time here, but definitely not my first time directing.
Well, tell us a little bit about Eric Modyman.
Well, I've been in the theater world since I was a high schooler. I feel like that's where everyone starts. Went to college and studied directing out there, and as soon as I left college, I immediately started directing at all sorts of local theaters. The first few years I was working for free because you got to get the experience.
We all do.
Yep, it's the classic conundrum of like, well, you want the job, but you don't have the experience. Well, how do I get experience? You can get a job.
What are some of the theaters you've worked at?
I've worked at Mysterium Theater, Whittier
well.
Center Theater, Camino Real Playhouse, Cabrillo Playhouse, Stages Theater, and I've also made my own theater company during the pandemic, which was called COVID-19 to Places.
Oh, very, very nice. So that's a lot of Orange County. So is this your first foray into the Inland Empire?
Yes, I live in Rancho Cucamonga now because my wife had a lot of family out here when we moved, when we got married. And so this is my first time working in this area. I do spend a lot of time out in Orange County, but it's nice to not have about an hour drive for once.
Yeah, that is nice, isn't it? You were very enthusiastic about applying for this project, I remember. And what was it about this particular project that made you as interested as you were?
Well, I have reached a point in my career where I have done a lot of comedies, and I'm starting to run out of comedies to do at this point. So I told my wife at the beginning of last year, because now we're in 23.
We are in 23.
So I told
Happy
her
New
at
Year.
the beginning of last year, I'm getting a little tired of just always doing comedies. I feel like I'm just doing the same tropes over and over. It's literally like the same joke that I'm just inserting in the same thing. And I told her I wanted to expand and do new, exciting, different opportunities. And as soon as I told her that, about a month later, I got Doubt, which is a very heavy drama piece.
Boy, that's not a comedy,
Yeah,
is it?
could not be further from my normal stuff.
Yeah.
And then I saw an opening for this, and I was like, oh, that'd be a very good challenge for me to expand what I do as a director.
Yeah.
So it's been about just trying to grow as an artist and take those opportunities as they come.
Let's talk about pacing.
Okay.
I mean, you talk about pacing in a comedy. It's definitely, and depending on the comedy, it's like this. It rolls. It's
Oh, yeah.
It goes. But when you get to the material like this or Doubt, it's different. How's that experience been for you as a director on the other side of that, pacing your actors?
Doubt was definitely a lot slower. I always tell them, like, guys, this, we're not acting now, we're being, so we need this to be as realistic as possible. Whereas this show, though, even though there are dramatic moments, it isn't as heavy as Doubt is, and because there's so many scenes that roll into each other, I almost feel my comedic background of just keep it rolling, has kind of come into play here, because so many of these scenes bleed into each other that I can't really just stop and have like, all right, and now take a while to do the big dramatic set change. I always tell my actors, be ready for your next entrance. If someone is literally leaving the stage, your foot should be entering the stage.
It's always an interesting thing here in the arena because it's so different from a proscenium. Because when you're timing those entrances and those exits, you've got these aisleways to deal with.
Yeah.
So that's always that extra bit of pacing. How has it been for you to come into an arena situation versus other, proscenium or thrust or?
It's my first time working technically in an arena space,
Right.
At least since college. However, I have done activities as an actor where it's, you're familiar with Westworld, right?
I am.
Okay, so I do this thing at Knott's Berry Farm called Ghost Town Alive,
Okay.
where we are basically Westworld but a family-friendly version, and you're constantly surrounded from every angle. So even when you're delivering your big monologues for scenes, you kind of get the idea of you have to move around and make sure everyone's being in there. So I'd say that's one of the bigger things that I have been focusing on, is making sure everyone gets some action at some point. And if it feels like one side's been getting neglected, we'll try to switch it up for the next scene.
Yeah, and actually, we share something in common, a background, Gourmet Detective days.
Ah,
So
there we
I was,
go.
yeah, I know that you were with Gourmet Detective
Yes, I
just
was.
shortly before the pandemic, or were you?
I was there from 2018. I stepped in at the last minute.
Yeah.
My first performance was my only rehearsal
Oh,
at the
yeah,
same time.
but as Gourmet Detective.
Yes.
And that's a similar situation where you're actually playing a room and action happens absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
So did that feel like, an arena situation or?
I always say the difference is that's more immersive in the sense you're literally surrounded.
Yeah.
And not that you aren't here, but it's more broken up. But definitely having that type of immersive, surrounded on all sides theater has helped me as a director coming into a new space.
How would you describe yourself if you had to, be in third person? How would you describe Eric as a director?
Okay, there we go. As a
a
director. I was like,
director.
as a person? Or?
Yeah, you seem like a nice guy, but no, as a director.
I would like to say that I'm very inclusive with my cast's ideas. I don't like to be the director that's like, this is my idea and we only do what I think. Because I've worked with those directors.
I
I'm
have
miserable.
too.
And I like to make sure that the rehearsal is a very fun space. I want my actors to look forward to coming in. I want them to have fun with each other. And I'd like to say that they've had ideas that I'm just not always like, no, that's not gonna work because I want it to be my thing. I like to include what they have because sometimes they'll think of things that I would have never thought of. So it's great to get outside perspective.
Isn't that great? Yeah, and then you get to take credit because you're the director, right?
I always make
I
sure
thought
they
of
get their credit.
We've got some cast members of yours that we're going to meet, and we'll actually ask them. No, I'm kidding. We won't ask them the same question. This show is probably one of the most interesting shows to come out in non-musical theater, probably in the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's definitely different, and it took me a lot of reads of the script to try to figure it out. Because it's such a different show, nothing is really laid out for you in the script. There were so many times I'd read there were so many times I'd read something and say, wait, what is happening there? And then I'd be worried, great, now how am I going to block that? It's hard because I didn't see this show on Broadway, so I've been trying to find other things and kind of piece together.
But maybe that's an okay thing.
It is, yes, because what I always say is, my directing teacher in college taught me this. He always said, if you get stuck and you don't know what to do, find other productions on YouTube, because that'll tell you what not to do.
That's true. I guess it could give you as many ideas as what not to do as it would to do. When you read the script the first time, was it something that you saw and said, I really have to do this? Or was it like, well, that's gonna, or did it take a minute to get?
I always say that you got to find some kind of connection with the material. I've done plenty of shows where I just did it for the sake of doing it, or did it for the sake of, hey, there's a paycheck involved, they were terrible shows because they were phoned in. Whereas, so with this, the way I connected to it is the character of Christopher. He's someone who everyone is constantly putting limitations on him, saying that he can or can't do anything because of who he is and how he overcomes all those expectations and proves what he's capable of and everything he plans to achieve beyond that. And the way I connected to that is when I was going to college, they were going around the class and asking everyone, why do we act? What are you interested in theater? And everyone gave these kind of overly philosophical answers where it was like, I hate who I am, and being an actor, it lets me live with myself, even if just for a moment. Like, it was like, who could have the most pain and be an actor? And my response was just, I like making people laugh. It's fun.
It's fun.
And everyone immediately, I was the odd man out of my acting class because I wasn't the serious actor. And everyone made it very well known that I was not their peer because of that. And yet I have since gone on to become a SAG-AFTRA member. I've done a lot of paid gigs. I'm directing all over the place. So I feel in that sense, Christopher and I connect, where so many people would say you can't do something, and we've overcome those expectations.
Well, we're going to come back in just a few minutes and meet a couple of your cast members and continue the cast conversations. So take a moment. You're going to have some important information on your screen just now on dates and times and how to get tickets to The Curious Incident, The Dog in the Nighttime. We will be right back. back with Cast Conversations for The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. And joining director Eric Modyman and myself is Ty Rogoff playing Christopher and Sonova McLeod playing Siobhan.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, you're both new to RCP as well, I
Yep.
see. All right, let's start with you, Sonova. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and why haven't you been with us yet?
Well,
and we're glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I took a little bit of a theater break. Haven't done a show since 2015, but I graduated from Cal State LA, where I did a lot of classical acting there. Worked in a outdoor Greek style amphitheater, so that's why I'm comfortable with
The arena.
mics in the arena.
Yeah.
So it's been really nice to get back into it. I've missed being on stage, but sometimes the adult life takes over and
Adulting.
who wants to adult all the time? So
Right.
It's been nice to find time to get back into the theater. It's been a really nice addition.
Welcome to back to the theater. We're happy to have you here at Riverside Community Players.
Thank you.
Ty, you're new here to us as well.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us about you.
I live up in the high desert,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's a little bit of a drive for me to come down here. But I just graduated from UC Riverside, so I know the commute.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you!
Yes.
That's exciting. I love it.
Great.
So I understood the commute and everything like that, and I saw the season and I saw this show, and I was like, we're gonna go audition, or we're gonna come for it, and came audition, mentally preparing to have everything in mind of what I was gonna do, and the cost was worth the benefit, and here I am.
Great. Okay. So, where did you see our audition information?
I saw
question.
the audition information on Instagram.
Ah, okay. Good to know. And Lynn, our production person over there, our publicity person over there, is cheering away. So I read in your bio, Ty, that you are your ambition is to win 4 Oscars.
Yes.
And that this is going to be the first step to that. So
Heck yeah.
you and Kate Hepburn, right? Good deal.
I love it. I don't care what anyone says. Everyone is like 4. I was like, yeah, I gotta dream big. Go big or go home. It's my big
big.
thing. I got it all mapped out on my phone of all my nominations, on my wins. It's so funny to hear me talk about it, but I'm like, I don't care. It's
You
my
talk about it,
thing.
it becomes a reality. It's a thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good deal. So the role of Christopher is probably one of the most, like I said, Eric and I were talking about in the last 10 years, one of the most iconic theater roles, to come around in a generation. And you were obviously familiar with it. What was it about Christopher that said, I've got to do that role?
Well, through school and everything that I've been learning, through my professors, they're always like, you need to figure out your type. You need to know your type and stuff. So the first thing I always go for is, the ages of characters. So I'm like, okay, Christopher's a teenager, so
Yeah.
I still look like a teenager. But I think, Christopher's, trying to find the right words here. Toady can't do a lot of things because he has these barriers that other people place on him, but yet he doesn't see them, overcomes them, even though he knows that they're not there. There's obstacles that he has to face, and there's obstacles that I've had to face, but not in the same way as him, but in a way I can use that to build with that character, to find that relationship, to build that connection between him and myself. So
So you feel like there's obstacles placed on Christopher, but the character himself doesn't see those obstacles. I think that might be key, to
Absolutely.
the character and to what he does. Now you're Siobhan,
Yes.
and Siobhan is these two characters are probably the most intertwined of any of the two in the show. They're almost, at times Siobhan is the voice of Christopher.
Yeah.
And
All of Act 1.
yeah, and really is that how is it relating to two characters? Is it like playing two characters? Is there Siobhan first and then there's Christopher, or is it kind of Siobhan Christopher?
So I definitely do my homework before I start memorizing or doing any of that. And that was my number one question that I wrote down. Is it Siobhan reading Christopher's words, or but working through the whole rehearsal process, I soon kind of realized Christopher and Siobhan have a lot in common. I have realized in being with those words, sitting with the words, it is Siobhan reading Christopher's words, but I think she has so many revelations where she sees herself in Christopher. And so just like there's so many lines where she's like, wow, like they talk about metaphors and she's like, that's really clever, because she like, I think she learns a lot of things from Christopher too by reading his story as well. So I think it's a little of both. I think she's in the moment reading, but she's also experiencing a different side of her that maybe she has neglected or that Christopher is bringing out of her. That's kind of where I've been approaching it.
I can't wait to see you two together on stage. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end with something kind of fun, a little bit light, and I'm going to start with Eric on this question. So, we as actors always have like maybe our dream scene partner or our dream scene. Now, if you could play a scene, just a scene with any famous actor, living or dead, who would that be?
I'm gonna pick Edward Norton. He seems like he'd be really tough on me, but
yeah.
he's someone who, as a serious actor, I've drawn
Yeah.
a lot of inspiration
Yeah.
from him. So I feel like I could learn a lot from him. Maybe as a person, not so much as maybe as an actor, not so much as a person, because I hear he's really hard on people, and that's not who I am.
He's an interesting guy. We'll talk about Edward Norton later after this. If you anybody, and it can be living, dead, you know.
Yeah, the first person that comes to mind is Tom Hanks. And I think it's because I try to have a well-rounded career the same way that he does. I mean, the man plays every kind of character.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely
kind of what I try to do as well. And so, I mean, you could just write a whole book on one rehearsal with him probably, you know. So I would love to do a scene with him.
And Ty, who would it be?
Woo! I think
You might need to pick Katharine
I know,
Hepburn
I got-
because
I
four
have so many
Oscars.
different, don't worry.
Ty, 4 Oscars. Katharine Hepburn, 4 Oscars.
Don't worry. I got to split between two. I love Kate Winslet. She's my number one actress of all time, but I think, you know, she's more for film, and I'm more into theater, so I would probably have to go with Cynthia Erivo, because every time I listen to her act or sing, I am bawling my eyes out. So if she could just grace and just pop up, I'd be like, breathe the same air. I'm just like, so that's what I would pick.
Sounds like an interesting thing. Well, thank you guys very much. I know that we took some very valuable rehearsal time. You open very shortly, and all of that information is going to be on your screen, how to get tickets, the box office hours, and all of that for the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime. That's all the time that we have. Anyway, I'm Philip Gabriel. Thank you for joining us, and hello to our YouTube and our Facebook audiences. We appreciate that very much. And a shout out to our own Lynn Innes, who puts all of this together and makes it happen. Until the next time, I'm Philip Gabriel, Cast Conversations Inside the Arena.